Hey you guys, welcome back. Today I'm gonna be kicking it old school, bringing it back to the basics, and I'm gonna go over all of my tips and tricks on how to apply eyeshadow. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get started. Okay, so we are zoomed in really nice and deep so that you can really see what's going on my eyeballs. So the number one thing that I get asked all the time is how to make your eyeshadow last or how to get the colors to look so vibrant, and the number one thing is an eyeshadow primer. My favorite one is the MAC Painterly Paint Pot. This is amazing. It kind of covers up any discoloration on the eyes. I can also use this to almost prime for my concealer as well. Having a primer is extremely important because it's gonna make your eyeshadow look the best that it possibly can, and it's gonna make it so your eyeshadow doesn't crease. I also think it's really important not to apply too much, but you also don't wanna apply too little. I don't really have any tips and tricks on how to figure out how much that is. I think it's something that you kind of have to play with and personally see what works best for you and your eyes. But yeah, don't apply too much, but don't apply too little. Then what you wanna do is grab any sort of powder that matches your skin tone. For me, I'm just gonna go in with the banana powder from the Anastasia Contour Kit, and you can use any sort of fluffy brush that you want, this doesn't matter, but go over that primer and set it in place and just pack it in like this. You don't wanna do any like swiping around, but just pushing the product in on top of that primer. And the reason why you wanna do this is so that when you go in with any other products, it's not gonna be wet underneath. If I didn't set this with a powder and I went in with a very dark color, any color honestly, and I started to blend it over my eye, it would pick up really pigmented where I first placed the eyeshadow and then not as pigmented where I blended it out. If you go over with a powder first, then it's gonna make the other eyeshadow slip right over it evenly, but still have that longevity from the primer underneath. I'm gonna be using my favorite eyeshadows from this palette. These are individual eyeshadows that I put into an empty eyeshadow palette. We're just gonna be going for a basic look at first, and we will be gradually building it up. If you wanna do something basic and not dramatic, then you don't have to do the dramatic steps, but if you want something dramatic, you still have to do the basic steps to get there. First thing that I do after setting my eye primer is to go in with my transition shade. A transition shade usually goes in the middle crease part of the eye. Not always, but basically that transition shade is just going to help you blend out your other eyeshadows. The reason why I love to do this first is because it creates a base. And anytime that you create dimension in the eyes or on the face, if you go in with that transition color first, it helps it so that it looks more seamless, more blended, and more natural looking. If you do the transition shade after doing the other colors, you end up messing up the other colors too, and it becomes really hard and complicated. You can do it that way if you'd like, but if you've never tried it this way, I highly recommend it because it's the easiest in my opinion. My favorite color for this is Anastasia's Birkin. This is such a beautiful brown, and it's the perfect transition shade for my complexion. If you have a deeper skin tone, go in with something a little bit deeper, and if you are lighter, you can go in with something a little bit lighter. I'm gonna pick this up on a Smith 232 brush. I'm just going like this to tap off the excess. You wanna do that so that you don't apply too much product at once, and then if you do apply too much product, it ends up falling all over the face and then sticking to the foundation. What I like to do is take this mirror here and I will put it down here almost at like chin level, you know, and then I will look down into it. When you do that, see all of this available space that's here, you can access that so much easier when you're looking in that direction. If I have this here, then I'm gonna be like squinting, and it's gonna be like hard to access my eyes because I'm coming at my eyeball with a brush, and your instinct is to blink and to squint, and then it doesn't end up turning out the way that you want it to look because you don't just walk around squinting all the time unless you're in the sun. So I put this down here almost at chin level, a little bit lower even, and then I look down into it, and then it's more natural for me to go in on my eye and access that area. So I'm gonna pull back on my brush. I'm not gonna hold it up here because if I hold it right here, it's gonna go on super harsh and pigmented, and it's gonna be hard to blend it out because it's gonna skip around and be more pigmented in some areas and not in others. So I hold down kind of like in the middle, sometimes closer to the end. Totally depends on how comfortable you are, but I usually do like right here. right there. I look down and then I start in the crease and I'm very lightly feathering this in the crease. You can do circular motions like I'm doing, or you can do windshield wiper. It's totally up to you. And I'm just going in the natural contour of my eye, if that makes sense. So you can feel where that brow bone is. You wanna go right underneath the brow bone. And I'm very, very lightly feathering this in. I have not gone in with more product. And then once the majority of the product is off of your brush, you can kind of tell because it's not adding any more color. You can go a little higher and kind of feather out that product a little bit more. Okay, I'm picking up a little bit more product. I just kept dabbing it in and then tapping off the excess. The other thing that I find really helpful is to pretend that you are approaching your eye from above. You wanna come from the north and bring your brush downwards. If you bring your brush coming up from the south and blend it, then you're gonna get a really harsh line right here. It's gonna end up being really messy and it's gonna be really hard to blend out. Already you can see it's a little bit more harsh. So if you bring your arm and wrap it around and bring this coming from above and face it downwards, it's going to be so much easier to blend out. That's one thing that I highly recommend is when you are applying eyeshadows, just to use a little bit at a time and slowly work upwards to a deeper color. As you can see, this is already starting to look deeper, but it's the same exact eyeshadow. Just make sure that each step is fully blended out. Don't think to yourself, oh, I'll blend that out later, because it's gonna be harder if you wait. Just do it right now, make sure it's fully blended, and then you'll be good. I'm ready to deepen this up now. I'm gonna go in with the color Frappe, and this is from Makeup Geek. Just so you guys know, I will list every product down below in the description box and where you can find it online. This is just slightly darker than Birkin. This is Birkin, and this is Frappe. And now I'm gonna go a little bit more precise with my brush. So this was the brush that we were using before. This is the Smith 232. Now I'm gonna go in with the Smith 230. It's just a little bit smaller, still fluffy, not too precise, but more precise than the one from before. Tap off the excess. Now I'm just gonna focus this in a more precise area. So I'm going in little circular motions right here on the outer lid and crease. And then I'm kind of feathering it in just a little bit so that it fades. Doing little circular motions. And sometimes I'll go in rocking motions. So I feel like there are 3 types of little motions. Oh, there's more than 3. But when you're working with fluffy brushes, there is a couple different ways that you could do it in the crease. You could do windshield wiper, which is like this, all over. It's like a windshield wiper. You could do circular motions, which is like this, and do little circles. Or what I like to do is rock, and that's windshield wiper motions, but a shorter area to do it in. So sometimes I will just rock this here, just kind of like bouncing back and forth. You just kind of wanna get in there right in the crease, and I usually do it right here in the outer corner. Now what I'm gonna do is go in with whatever's left over on that bigger brush and blend right in the crease here. I'm not adding any additional product. This just helps to blend it out. If I added more product, it might get messy too far up. So that's why I'm going in with whatever's left over on it. If you have it where you tend to bring your eyeshadow up too high and it ends up getting really dark up here, what you can do is go in with a face powder or an eyeshadow that is exactly the same color as your skin and bring it down over where that eyeshadow went up too high. Mine's not up too high right now, but if it was, just bring this product down. You can even bring this down almost into the crease and then go in with your fluffy brush with whatever's left on it and then lightly buff over it. And it will help you clean up that area so that it's not too sharp and that you don't have any dark eyeshadows that are up too high. Okay, so now we're gonna deepen this up even more. So this is kind of like the trend that we're doing, is working light to dark to add the dimension in the eye and make it look seamless without having to blend the crap out of your eyeshadow to where it's just like a pain in the butt. So this was what we just went in with, which was Frappe, and now we're gonna go in with tan lines. This is also from Makeup Geek, and you can see it's just slightly darker. This is still the Smith 230, and putting it even deeper in that area. And I'm gonna feather this on the lid a little bit because today what I'm doing is darker in the outer corner and lighter on the inner corner, just because I feel like that is the most common thing that people want to achieve. You know, this is mainly focusing it on the lid part, not so much the crease. Go back in and blend it with the big fluffy one. I'm gonna take this eyeshadow from MAC. It is called Nylon. It's a shimmery highlight shade. I'm just gonna pick that up on a flatter brush like this and bring that right on the brow bone. Okay, so now we're gonna get a little bit darker on that outer corner and start to smoke this up a little bit. The one that I was just using was Tan Lines, but now we're gonna go in with Cabin Fever from Makeup Geek. See, it's just slightly darker. We're gradually building up to a deeper and deeper shade. I'm gonna get a little bit more precise with my brush. I'm gonna use the Smith 247, which is just a little bit more precise and a little bit less fluffy. I'm gonna pick that up just on the tip. I'm doing little swirly motions in here. So now when I'm accessing the outer corner of my eye, I'm still looking down into my mirror, but I'm kind of tilting my head a little bit because that helps me access the area from my right hand. And I'm just gonna push it on the outer corner, just kind of pushing it in. And now I'm going to lightly do circular motions just in this area to kind of diffuse the color. I don't want to blend it out in a wide area like I did with the other shades because this is a darker color. If you do that, then it's going to go everywhere and kind of mess up the look a little bit. I'm going to go back into the Smith 230 brush. You could use whatever's left on it or pick up a little bit of that Tan Lines or Frappe shade, something like that, and very lightly go on the edge here. And that will help to blend out this shadow. You don't want to use this deep shade to blend out the shadow. You want to use any of the lighter shades to blend it out because you don't want to bring that color up too high. I'm still kind of approaching this from above, you know? When we approach it from above, the tip is where you want to blend, and then the rest of it kind of helps to blend it upwards. If you go this way, it's gonna bring the harshness up too high and blend it downwards, which is kind of the opposite of what we want. And I know you can't see my arms in this, but it looks really funny when I'm doing this because I'm holding this mirror over here and this arm is crossed over my chest. So I'm honestly like making this weird X shape, you know? So I look really funny. On camera, you can't tell. So if you're doing it and you're like, why am I looking so funny? It's totally normal. Now, as you can see, I feel like it's gone a little bit too high up there. So I'm just gonna grab that really fluffy brush, which was the Smith 232, and blend. And then I could also grab that brush that I did the eyebrow highlighter with and bring that product down a little further, just like this, and then go back in and blend it out. That way it's not too dark, too high up. Yeah. So we were just using Cabin Fever from Makeup Geek, and now I'm gonna go in with Americano from Makeup Geek. This is almost black. It's like a really, really rich chocolatey brown. Now we're gonna go into an even more precise brush, which is the Crown C528 brush. It's a small, like, pencil tapered brush. And for this, you wanna put this right on the tip of the brush. I'm swirling it in the product, tapping off the excess. And now this, you want to make this as precise as you can. So I'm bringing this right in the outer corner and keeping this right in this, they call it the outer V, you know? So this is the V here, from the lash line up and then lightly pushing that inwards. And then what I like to do is on that brush, I'll pick up some of that Cabin Fever shade and use that to help blend out the shadow. Putting this here on the lid, picking up more Cabin Fever, going not above, but I'm gonna go right on top of it, right here with the Cabin Fever, which helps to naturally blend that out. So as you can see, it still looks a little harsh right there. So what I'm gonna do is grab the 247, which was the most precise out of my fluffy brushes, and grab any of those mid-tone shades, come from above and get right in that crease to help blend it out. And you can see it very slowly kind of blurs that and gets rid of the harshness, but keeps the deepness at the same time. A very important tip when you're doing your eyeshadow is that if you're kind of like doing it in a really small mirror like this, and you're kind of like all up in your eye, after each step, you wanna step away and look into a bigger mirror or look further away and look from there so you can see what it's gonna look like in real life. Because sometimes you're so up close to something and it looks good from up close, but not from far away. Maybe it looks a little too smoky or something. So you wanna just like step away, look back in another mirror and see what it's looking like. I just wanna brighten up that inner corner and this inner lid part now. I'm just gonna grab that nylon shade, this one here, this is what we have on the brow bone. I'm just gonna use that flat brush, which was the 239. I'm gonna pick up the product. I'm looking down into my mirror, and for this, I'm just pushing it in on the lid. For the lid, you could use whatever you want. Just today, I felt like doing this color. Sometimes I just leave it matte like this and call it a day. But today I want a little bit of shimmer. I'm also bringing that down into the inner corner. Now on that first initial blending brush, the Smith 232, it doesn't really matter what brush you use for this, I'm picking up that first shade Birkin on the belly of the brush. So this is the tip of the brush and this is the belly of the brush. So I'm bringing it right on the belly and I'm gonna lay it flat and kind of mend that shimmery shade with the deeper shades over here. So this is the transition shade with everything. So this is also gonna help bring the lightest color with the darkest color because this is our medium tone color. I'm just kind of feather that in so that they fade together. And I'm kind of blending here too. Okay, so now for the lower lash line, we're basically gonna do what we did on the top. I'm taking that big fluffy brush, picking up just a little bit of Birkin, and now the only difference is that instead of looking down into your mirror, because that's gonna be really hard to get that area, it's like almost impossible, you're gonna bring your mirror up above you, up here, and look up like this. And then I'm feathering that underneath the eye. And now we're coming from this out. And that's gonna really diffuse that color, give a nice base for what we're doing. Again, still make sure you tap off the excess so that it doesn't go everywhere, especially on the under eye, because if you don't tap off the excess, that powder will go in your eye and it will be very, very uncomfortable for you. Now I like to go a little bit more precise, so I'm actually gonna be using the Sigma flat definer brush. It is an E15, it's just a really flat, like rectangular brush. I'm gonna pick up Frappe, which was that second shade that we used, and now I'm gonna get really precise to the lash line. So I'm gonna bring this right here, but I'm putting the most of the product here on the outer corner. So anywhere you want the most pigmentation or the most darkness, apply it there first because that's where it's gonna be the most pigmented. So now I'm gonna grab some of that tan lines and do the exact same thing. Push it in at the lash line, move it downwards just a little bit, and then slightly feather that inwards. And then we're gonna go into that Cabin Fever shade. Keep it as close as you can to the lash line and then very lightly bring it down, not too far. So now I can go into Americano on that flat definer, and I'm bringing this really close to the lashes, right at that lash line and right in the outer part. And that with that color, I'm not bringing it downwards. And now I'm gonna blend it with the fluffy brush, but I'm not blending it around. I'm just moving it close to where that Americano is. So I feel like the eyeshadow is complete. I'm gonna go ahead and finish off the look just with some mascara, liner, and lashes. If you want full videos on those, I will link them down below because I go this in detail on all of those topics. So I will link those down below if you're curious how I do those. So I'm gonna do that and I will be right back. So this is the completed eyeshadow look. I really hope that this video was helpful and that I covered as much as I possibly could. If there's something that I didn't go over at all, please let me know your questions down below in the comment section and I will be down there talking to you guys, replying to your comments, and answering any questions that you might have. So if you have any questions as to what products I used or forgot or whatever, all of that will be linked down below in the description box right below this video. And that is pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already so that you don't miss out on any new videos just like this one, and I'll see you later. Bye.